Hey there, David in Art here, and I've had a couple of folks ask me about how to make thumbnails. So I thought I would do a tutorial here, show you guys what I do anyway. Some of the things that I'm going to show you will apply no matter what software you use to create the thumbnail. Some of it is going to be specific to the program I'm using, which, by the way, the program I'm using is called Photoshop Elements. It's like a scaled down version of Photoshop. You can also use programs like GIMP or Pixelmator, or there's all kinds of different programs you can use. But the first thing when you're making your thumbnail, you can either do one of two things. You can either go grab a screenshot or you can create the file. I'm going to go ahead and create a file first. So I'm going to tell it new blank file, and I'm going to give it a name, and we'll call it thumbs. Why not? All right. This has some presets. I don't know what they are. So in our case, we're going to do 1280 by 720. That is a 720p. If you record in 1080p, then you would set your thumbnail to that same size, I believe. Not quite sure how that works because I don't really use that. So, all right. So this creates a new file, and the first thing you get is layer 1, which is kind of your bottommost base layer. And generally speaking, what I do is I will come in here with a bucket, and I will take either the black or white, depends on whichever color you want. I'll just take black. No, go away. All right, so I take the black color and I fill in the background with all black. I know some people don't like to do that. I do, mainly because that way, no matter what I do on the screen, if I end up leaving a hole, there'll be black behind there. So the next thing I want to do, though, is we need to grab the screenshot that we're going to use as part of the thumbnail. So to do that, I go to where I've recorded my videos, and this is just one I was playing with earlier today, so why not? I use a program called VLC. It's free. That's what I use for my media player.
Hello.
Now again, this is a video I've already edited, so now I'm looking through to see which scene I want to be the thumbnail. All right, so that's pretty good. There's blood and death and gore, so why not? All right, so I'm going to go to video and take a snapshot, and it tells me it's saved as VL snap, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that doesn't really matter. I'll show you why in a minute, so we'll get rid of this. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my blank thumbnail. And in this particular program, you go to File, Place. And what Place does is it goes out, it lets you find a file, and then add it as a layer into the project you're already working on. In other programs, like in GIMP, you can, I think it's called Open as Layers, and it's the same thing. It lets you go grab an image and paste it in as if it were a new layer in your project. So we're going to Place and go back here to Pictures, because that's where VLC saves things. Now, I have mine sorted by the, I think by file name, or maybe the date, I don't know. Anyway, I think it's actually by file name. So when I scroll to the very bottom here, even though I got a gazillion pictures in here, it's always going to be the last VLC snap that I find. Most likely yours will be too. So now you'll see that I now have two items over here on the right-hand side. So the first thing is when you bring in an image, my suggestion is that when you bring in an image, you always click the check mark. Now I have two items. Whatever software you use, I recommend that you use a program that allows layering. Now you can do it in something like Microsoft Paint, but you're probably not going to want to, just because Paint is essentially like having a piece of paper and you paint stuff on it, and then the next thing you paint on, and you can't get it off once you've painted it. It's kind of a pain. Here, you can work with these different layers, and you can do anything you want in those individual layers, and it not affect the overall project. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. You can always manipulate things. I want to put myself into the thumbnail, so I need to find a picture that I've taken of myself, or if you got a webcam, or you got your phone or whatever, take a picture with the pose that you want, and then bring that into your program. So I'm going to go find a picture real quick, and I'll be right back for that. Actually, I'll go ahead and show you how I do that. I come up here, and again, I'm going to place. In my pictures, I have a Logitech webcam, so there's a folder for that, and I'm just going to use, let's say, this image here. All right, so there I am. What? Now, notice it's got all the other, there's like, you know, all my background and all this other stuff. So what's really cool about a program like Photoshop, Photoshop Elements, anything with layering is I can come over to the selection tool here. All right. So this, and this has several options for selection. I can do quick selection, and where the program tries to, actually the first thing is in this particular program, I have to come over here and tell it to simplify the layer. It has to do with the way it's captured or something anyway. Otherwise it won't let me work on it. All right. So I can either use a quick selection tool, which when I click, it's automatically, notice that even though I'm clicking in one spot, it's trying to figure out what I'm supposed to select or what it thinks it's supposed to select. But as you can see, it grabbed my shirt, it grabbed all this. Okay, I don't want all that. All right. So I'm doing Control Z to undo. All right. What I prefer to do is I actually like to do the selection brush, and I can change the size of the brush here. So if I think that's a little small for what I want, I can do this. And now when I hold my mouse button down and drag, you see I'm getting these little black and white dots on the screen. And when I let go, they move. That's referred to as marching ants, or at least that's what I was taught to call them marching ants. So you have your marching ants, and what you're doing is you are selecting the part of the picture that you want to keep. Okay. All right, so notice that right now, the way these lines are moving, I've actually selected kind of a donut. This middle part is actually not selected. So I need to make sure this is all one big happy circle. See, I just want one circle on the outside. All right, now, I've selected too much, right? So I can hold down my Alt key, and that allows me to subtract from the selection. So I can come in here and I can, you know, get in here, fine tooth, comb, sort of. Now I can also zoom in. That's not something you want to see every day. But notice that when I zoom in, this now lets me get a little more refined with my selection. So I can come up here and I can make sure I don't have that door behind me. I can also change the size of the brush so that I'm not selecting, you know, so much stuff. I don't know. We'll grab this little tuft of hair. Actually, we'll just grab all this hair here. When you have a little bit, you want to grab it all. Okay. I'd say that looks pretty decent for what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out again. I would be holding the wrong key. Okay. So now here's where, actually, you know what? I decided I don't like the way that looks. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Give myself a haircut. All right. So I've selected my face. So if I press delete right now, I've deleted my face. Okay, well, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to keep my face. Keep my face. All right, so instead, I've got my face selected. So what I want it to do is select the inverse. That means I have this much selected and the rest of this is not selected. I want to do the opposite. Select everything else, but leave the hole in the middle. And again, you notice I have the marching ants go all the way around the outside, and the inside, I have marching ants around my face. So what that means is everything between the marching ants is now selected. So now when I hit delete, bing, there's my face. All right. And then you want to go up and you want to deselect. That way nothing is selected. Now, if I start trying to click and drag and move, remember, I still have the selection tool chosen. So if I start dragging, clicking, trying to do stuff, it thinks I'm trying to select things. I'm not. I actually want to move stuff. So I have a move tool here. And so the move tool allows me to move my head wherever I want my head to go. And likewise, I can, because I have this clicked, I can grab a corner and I can tilt it if I want. I can make this bigger if I want. That's a little too big really, but that's okay for what we're doing. And click the check mark to say, yep. Then the other thing I like to do when I'm working on a project is I'll click over here on the side. That just deselects everything all together. All right, so here I am. I've got my shot here. All right, great. So I have me in the thumbnail, and you may not want you in the thumbnail. That's perfectly fine. I could make a thumbnail of just this background if I want to. But one of the things you want to put in your background is text. So I have a text tool. I can click on the text tool, and I can, what I usually do is I will go ahead and click and drag a box where I want the text. And this is Ghost in the Shell. All right. So I typed it in. Now, two things I'm sure you've noticed. One, the words wrapped around because this box is really too small to fit everything. And you notice that it's going to be real hard to read that text because of the color. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move over here and I'm going to widen this out. And I'll grab this side. Okay, so I'm just stretching out the box so that it has enough room to be on one line. Now, you might not want it on the one line. You set it up however you want to. But the other thing I have to do is go in here and I have to change the color. The color is actually located down here, and I don't think my camera's blocking down here. It might be. If it is, down in this lower corner is a place where I can choose a different color. Just for the sake of argument, let's pick, I don't know, let's pick red. All right. Let's pick blue. All right, so I have Ghost in the Shell, and I have it blue, and I can put this wherever I want to. So let's say that I decide I want Ghost in the Shell to be at the top. In my thumbnails, I want the text at the top. All right. Now, you still can't really read that. So there are a couple of things you can do that will help enhance that text. One of the things is to, over in your layers, you want to copy that same layer. So in this program, I can right click, duplicate layer, and hit OK. And now I have two Ghost in the Shell that are exactly the same. They're in the same place, same color, whole 9 yards. All right, in this program, by the way, anytime you're dealing with a program that has layers, whatever is at the top of your layer list is the topmost in your picture. So basically, if you're looking at your layers like this, but if you were to turn it so that this is the top layer, you're looking down on your project. If I have something here, notice you can't see this behind here, right? So if I make some holes, now you can see what's back there. Similar thinking along with the text and everything else, right? So, for example, right now the text is at the very top, right? So if I come over here and I move my head, notice that my head goes behind the words, right? Because the text is above where my head is in the layers. If I move my head to the top, now notice my head is in the way. All right, that's very important with layering, is figuring out where stuff is and where it needs to go. All right, so we're going to put me back down here. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, you notice that there's these little eyeballs, and all layering programs that I've ever used have some kind of an eyeball feature over here. And in this particular case, what that means is if I click an eyeball, notice that now it has a red line through it. That means I'm not looking at this Ghost in the Shell text. I know it's kind of hard to tell right now because they're all the same color, but you'll see in just a second. So this one is now hidden. So what I see on the screen is actually the second one. So if I click on it, I can change its color to say white. All right, so now it's white. Notice it's white. Where's the blue one? The blue one is hidden. So if I show the eye, notice that now you have Ghost in the Shell blue, and you can kind of see some white around it, but that's not really there per se. It's sort of trying to show you the white behind there. So what I can do is I like to use my keyboard for this. I click on the second one. Okay, that's the one behind. Now watch what happens. I can use my arrows and I can move over a couple. I can move down a couple. All right. So now when I click off, now it gets kind of a shadow 3D effect. All right. Now it's still not easy to read, but it's not bad, right? Okay. So one of the other things that I like to do is I like to put a rectangle behind my text, and every program that I've ever used, again, comes with a shape tool. And in the shape tool, usually there's a rectangle. There's usually also an ellipse or circle. There may be other tools, but I want the rectangle. And down here, and again, my camera's probably in the way here, but there's a little area down here where I can select what shape I want. And then there's also a place here where I can choose what color I want that to be. And what I usually do is I usually pick a dark, maybe even a black box. All right, so I'm going to pick a black box and I'm going to draw a box around the text. And then when I let go, notice the box is on the very top. Okay, well, now it's blocking the words, right? So I want to move this down so that it's behind the words. But to me, that kind of, whoa, I mean, that's very, what's the word I want to use? I don't know. There's a huge, that black just kind of stands out. It's like, whoa. So what I can do is I can go over here to opacity, which is how solid the object is, and I can reduce that. So now you can see that as I change this, it's how much I can see through that box that's back there. So essentially I'm trying to create a little shadow, but I still want, so I'm going to say there. Okay. So let me grab the pointer tool here. Okay. So now you can see that my box, you can actually see through it now. And it says Ghost in the Shell. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the blue. So I'm going to double click. Again, I'm going to make sure that I'm at the top one because that's the blue one. And I'm going to change that to, what about a lighter blue? All right, and then once I change it, now it changed orange, but that's because it's showing you the opposite to let you know it's selected. So I need to click off here. Okay, that's actually not bad. I mean, it's kind of powder bluish, but you know, hey, why not? All right, so that's one thing you can do. Now, another cool thing that you can do in a lot of programs, it'll have this little eyedropper icon over here, and that's the color picker. So I can go on here and I can choose any color on the screen, and that will make that the hot color over on the side. So for example, if I wanted my words to be kind of this, well, I don't want to do that. I need something that's kind of light. Let's say sort of this kind of gray-green color. Now, it doesn't pick up gradients or shadows. It's going to pick that one solid color where you happen to click. So you notice this color over here changed. So now, if I go back up here to text and I double click on my words, then I thought, okay, so I clicked over on the color. I said, okay, there we go. So I clicked on the color swatch over here. That brought up this palette, which by default was selected with the color that was already there from that we picked. And when I hit OK, it changed that to that kind of green dingy color or whatever. All right, so I don't necessarily like that either, but you know, close enough. So now we have our thumbnail. Now, if you want, you can add things like if you're like what I do with my BeamNG, I've started adding what number BeamNG video it is. You can add that. If you don't want that, you don't have to do that. If I did want to add it, again, I would just go into the text tool. I would choose, you can either leave it the same color or you can make it a different color. Let's just say for the sake of argument, we keep it the same, and I draw a box and we say this is number 5, or maybe you just do number 5. I don't know, however you want to do it. I hit OK, and here's my number 5. Again, I can't really see the number 5, especially here where it matches the color, right? So what I might want to do is right-click, duplicate, okay, hide the top one, click the second one, double-click to select it, change its color to anything else. Let's just, I'll use white, why not? Okay. So now that one is white. I remember this one's hidden, so let's show it. All right. I click on the bottom number 5, and again I can move. All right. And this time I went the other direction. On the top one, I went right and down, and this one I went left and down. Okay, you set that up however you want to set that up. All right. Now, If I want to move this, you'll notice that when I grab this, it only grabbed the one that I had selected. Oh, well, that's not good. So I undo that. What I can do is I can hold my shift key and select multiple layers. And now when I move them, they move together. Okay. I can, while they're both selected, I could change the size of them if I want to. Maybe I want the number to be bigger for whatever reason. Okay. Again, I could put a square behind it. If I wanted to make a square, I'm just going to kind of leave that the way it is. All right. So here I have my thumbnail. So in this program, I have to tell it to save for the web. In your program, you may be able to just export it. You might be able to save as, whatever. But in this one, I have to save for the web. So when I tell it to save, it's going to save in my pictures folder. And I'm just going to say this is ghosts, I don't know, 005. All right, so I give it a name that makes sense to me because I have to go find it later when I do a custom thumbnail when I upload the YouTube video. So we'll save that. And just to show you that it is out there, we will go find that here in just a moment. Okay, so I'm in my pictures folder and I look and I called it Ghosts 5. So here it is here. If I double click on it, that's the image I just created and that's the image I can use for my thumbnail. So what I did with this one is same stuff we were talking about. This is all a screenshot in the background. And then I went out on Google, which I have not shown you, so I can show you how to do that. And I looked up an image of an astronaut. Now, a lot of people make this mistake of just grabbing the first astronaut they see. Legally speaking, you can't do that. You have to go to Tools and under Usage Rights, choose the one labeled for reuse with modification. Now, these are licensed to where you are allowed to use them. So from here, you can pick, just scroll down through here and find an image that you like. I could have picked this one. I could pick this one. There's, any of these that I wanted to pick. I just happened to pick the one over here where he was doing the thumbs up. I right click and copy the image so that in my program, here, I can create a new layer and paste the image that I just selected. Again, my layer is right on top, so it's on top of everything. For what I'm doing right now, that's okay. So what I can do is I've got my image in here, and so I can once again go into the selection tool and I can select all of the astronaut that I want. All right, and as I get to the end of that, there we go. All right, so you can see that we have the lines all around that are moving, the moving ants. So you see I've selected this. Now remember, I need to do the opposite. So I want to select the inverse and then delete everything that wasn't part of that. And then I want to deselect everything. So now I can move my astronaut all around. All right. So there's my astronaut. And what I can do is, and I'll tell you what I did for that other thumbnail. I took my face. No. I took my face. Well, and it's not going to be at the right angle, but that's okay. Ooh, notice my face. I'm behind there. I don't want to be behind there. So let's, yeah, that's fine. Let's move the astronaut under my face so that now I'm on top here. And we resize this. Again, it's not matching for several reasons, but that's okay. So I'm just going to resize things a little bit. I get it sort of close. All right. So here's a little secret. When you in the other image, you'll notice that you can still see sort of the gold mask in front of my face. Let me show you how I did that. What I did was I made a duplicate of this astronaut layer. All right. And I'm calling this layer Astro Top because I need to remember where it is. All right. So I got to remember where it is. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to have the astronaut picture, me, and then the other astronaut picture. So basically I'm sandwiched between the two because I'll show you what's going to happen. It's really, really cool. Because the two astronaut layers are exactly the same. Remember I talked about opacity before and how I can see through it? Notice what happens when I start to pull this back. You start to see me because I'm in between the two layers. This doesn't change. The rest of it doesn't change because as far as the computer is concerned, they have, it's just two images overlapping and they are the exact same image. But I put my face in between there, and so now you can see, sort of, the gold mask behind. Now, I could trim this up some, and what I would do is I would select my face, and then I can use the eraser tool, and I can erase my face. Now, this is not going to be smooth. Ideally, you would smooth this out and, take your time and do all kinds of good stuff with it, but I'm not. We're just going to do this. All right. Over here, it gets real hard to tell the difference between my face and the mask. All right. So now I've sort of made my face match, and my face didn't already match, so that's where the problem is. But again, if I go back to the topmost astronaut picture and change that opacity a little bit, all right, you can still see, there's the gold mask and you see my face. And again, I can change that if I want to see more of my face, then I make it more see-through. All right. Now, part of the problem with this astronaut picture is in the reflection, you see like, I don't know, whatever that is, palm trees and stuff, man. But anyhow, so that is how you can do a layered effect for your thumbnail where you look like you're wearing the parka or the spacesuit or whatever by doing those multiple layers. And again, then you would save this out for the web, save the picture, and there you go. I hope this helped those of you that are working on thumbnails and trying to do some more advanced things with thumbnails. And this is not advanced. At least from my perspective, I would call this intermediate maybe. There's a lot of really cool advanced things that you can do. And I know how to do some of those things, not all of those things. But again, that's something if you guys want me to do some more, or if there's a particular type of thumbnail that you've seen somewhere and you're like, how did they do that? Then we can try to recreate that here. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. Anyhow, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for the question, the suggestion to do a tutorial on making thumbnails, some of the more advanced type thumbnails. And feel free to leave any questions, problems, suggestions, horror stories down in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.